Greetings, King's College students. I hope each of you, have enjoyed a productive and relaxing summer, and that you, like me, are anxious to get back to school this fall. I'm Dan Seidel, and I'll be teaching the 19th century art course, The Birth of the Modern, Part 1, this fall, and I'm very excited about it, and I thought I would just introduce it to you and give you a sense of what to expect this fall. As I mentioned, the course's name is The 19th Century, The Birth of the Modern. From many of you who have had classes with me focusing on modern and contemporary art, I've looked at the 19th century, but we've seen it as a stepping stone to the 20th century. And what we're going to do this fall and in the spring, because this fall is part 1, and in the spring it's part 2, we're going to sit in the 19th century. And we're really going to focus on how the 19th century occurred. We're going to be looking at neoclassicism and romanticism in the 18th century. We'll be looking at the impact of the Enlightenment. We'll be looking at the impact of the various theological and death of God crises in the 19th century, the rise of scientism, the dominance of natural science in the 19th century. We'll be spending a lot of time in the 19th century, and really to provide a foundation for you to see this transition from the Renaissance, from classical art to modern contemporary art, and to see 19th century as this hinge that is not just about stylistic developments, but about philosophical ones, theological ones, existential ones, focused upon what can we know about ourselves and the world? How are we to understand faith? How are we to understand God in a post-theological world? And that's what the 19th century is really dealing with. How do we understand who we are? How do we find and live with meaning and significance in a world that doesn't quite operate in the way that it had, in which the basic theological questions about God's existence and our ultimate destiny seem to be laid out and beyond question. Once everything is put in question, subjected to criticism, as Kant would say in the 18th century, once you submit everything to criticism, the firm foundation begins to shift and to crack. And so we're left thinking differently about who we are in relationship to God and the world. And the visual arts play an important role in representing this, expressing this, but also in participating in shaping how we understand who we are now. And the 19th century is crucial for this understanding. So we're going to spend a full year on it, this fall semester and the spring semester. We'll be teaching. I'll be teaching again in the evenings. The schedule will be 3 times. Again, it'll be 3 times this fall for 1-week periods. I'll be coming in I think the second week of school, August 29th to September 1st, and then the end of September, and in November, I believe. But I've also, in the email that this web cam introduction is included in, I have the syllabus. You can see the dates. We'll be spending the week together from 6 to 9 p.m. As I've been doing it for the last couple of years. The difference this semester is that we'll be meeting only Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And Friday will be open. We'll be doing that again for my second trip. And then for my third and final trip, at the end of November, I'll be coming on a Tuesday, the last week of November, and going through Friday. So it'll be 4 nights, intense nights. In the interim, I'll be giving you a particular museum assignment at the Met that you'll need to do for me. Going to the museum, looking at one or particular or several works of art and writing a reflection paper on it from the perspective that I'll offer to you. I'll give to you at a later date. So that's the shape of the course. Those interim writing assignments plus class discussion, your participation, and then also the final essay, the final project that'll be due that last Friday of finals week. It'll be an extended paper. It'll be what we'll be moving towards in our class. You'll be taking a particular position with a theme or an artist or even just a single work of art and focusing particular attention on that. And again, we'll talk about it. I'll talk about it with you as we get closer to that date. I also want to show you the textbook we'll be looking at. This is it's 19th century European art. We won't be looking at art in the United States. We'll be focusing on the development of Romanticism in Berlin and in England. We'll be looking at the quite different flavor of Romanticism and Neoclassicism in Paris, in literature and in theater, and then how that manifests itself in the visual arts. So much of what I've talked about over the past few years, for those of you that have taken my classes, has been to look at the 19th century as this briefly as a way to think more broadly about the future. And again, as I've mentioned, we're really going to unpack it and really develop our understanding of Romanticism, of the relationship of Ingres and Delacroix to the Academy, the influence that Baudelaire and Delacroix have on artists in the middle of the 19th century. We'll be looking at the means of distribution and the mechanics of how meaning and significance are determined in the course of the 19th century, and how it differs from the Renaissance tradition, and how it opens the door and leads the way for how we understand the gallery network and the auction system. I also want to mention that these two classes will also provide a good background, good foundation for the 6 credit hour course that Dr. Bleitler will be offering in Paris this summer, in which I'll be participating. I'll be giving a week of lectures that will focus upon art in Paris between the war years. So the 19th century, the fall and spring, parts 1 and 2 will provide I think, a terrific context and should be able to stimulate some interest. This course that Dr. Bleitler teaches is fantastic. I participated in it 2 summers ago, and I look forward to doing it again this coming summer. So with that, I will conclude my comments. Again, I'm very much looking forward to spending time with you this fall. It's going to be, I think, an enjoyable class this fall, and in the spring it'll be a more conventional survey class in which we'll be looking at lots of slides, lots of images, working through a survey textbook in a much more conventional way, which I'm really actually looking forward to, and I hope it'll be helpful to you, and that some of those loose ends and loose strands that you've picked up in my classes or in Dr. Bleitler's classes or in other classes in history or political science or literature can, as we focus on this 19th century, they can come together for you and begin to provide opportunities for you to see how the visual arts participate, not just in an illustrative way, but in a deeply constitutive and shaping way in terms of how we understand who we are as modern human beings. So with that, I will say goodbye, and I will see you in a few weeks.